One good piece of evidence that we have that Jesus is God, that He is divine, comes from the sheer number of healing miracles that we can read about in the Gospel accounts. The Gospel according to Mark is especially filled with these healing miracles. One of which that is particularly important is from Mark chapter 2, verses 1 through 12. In this text we read of an individual who is a paralytic, who has 4 men who are carrying him to Jesus so that he may be able to be healed. But because of the large crowd that is near Jesus, the 4 men are unable to bring the person to Jesus. So what they do is they actually bring him up to the roof and unroof the roof and dig a hole in it and bring him down to Jesus so that Jesus may see him and heal him of his paralysis. This is mentioned in verses 3 through 5. And they come, carrying to him a paralytic, lifted up by 4 men. And when they were not able to draw near to him because of the crowd, they unroofed the roof where he was. And having dug out a hole in it, they lowered the pallet upon which the paralytic was laying. And seeing their faith, Jesus says to the paralytic, "Son, your sins have been forgiven you." Now this is an awesome statement. Jesus doesn't heal the person physically, but rather He forgives them of his sins. This statement would be blasphemy if what Jesus said was false, if Jesus was not God. And the scribes take it as such. Verses 6 and 7 say, "But some of the scribes were sitting there and reasoning in their hearts, 'Why is this man speaking blasphemy so? Who is able to forgive sins except one, our God?'" Jesus knew that He was God, that He is God. And so whenever He says, "Son, your sins have been forgiven you," He is saying simply what is within His authority, what He is able to do, because God is able to forgive sins, and Jesus is God. But anybody could say that your sins are forgiven, right? Because whenever someone's sins are forgiven, the person doesn't look physically different. There's no physical evidence that the person's sins have been forgiven, and Jesus knows this. And so what He does is He asks a wonderful question about what is easier to say. Is it easier to say that someone's sins have been forgiven, or to arise, lift up your pallet, and walk? That is what Jesus does to provide evidence that Jesus is divine, that He is God. We can see this in verses 8 through 12. "And immediately Jesus, fully knowing in His spirit that they reasoned so in themselves, said to them, 'Why are you reasoning these things in your hearts? Which is easier to say to the paralytic, Your sins have been forgiven you, or to say, Arise, and lift up your pallet and walk? But that you may know that the Son of Man has authority upon the earth to forgive sins, He says to the paralytic, I say to you, Arise and lift up your pallet and go to your house. And he immediately arose, and having lifted up the pallet, went out before them all, so that they were all astonished and glorified God, saying, We never saw this happen so. This is but one miracle account. The Gospel of Mark is loaded with them. There are accounts of healings of all manner, of all sorts of different things that Jesus does. And so that we may be able to see that Jesus is God, that He does have the authority to forgive sins, I'll go ahead and show a listing of various healings that Jesus performs in the Gospel of Mark alone. Not only that, but we can see that Jesus has the authority, the power to cast out demons and spirits, as is also provided on the screen that you can see for yourself. I hope that you may take a look at these texts and see that Jesus did have the authority, the power to do these different things, and that these things were done so that we could believe that Jesus is God, that He is divine. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video, and have a nice day.